So if you want a breakdown of that groove, plus one other, by Omar Hakim with Weather Report on the song Where the Moon Goes, stay tuned. Happy New Year, everybody. It's 2020 and a brand new decade. I wish all of you the very, very best in the years to come. I'm going to start this decade with part 2 of my analysis into Omar Hakim's playing. Today we're going to take a look at 2 main grooves in a song called Where the Moon Goes by Weather Report. But before we get into it, make sure to hit the red subscribe button and ring the bell. Now let me tell you something about ringing the bell. I've recently learned, because I'm just kind of new to YouTube, only been at it like a year or so, aggressively that is, that if you don't ring the notification bell, even if you subscribe, you may not know when I upload new videos. I thought that if you subscribed, you would be notified every time. It doesn't work like that. So if you want to see all the videos that I put out, make sure you ring the bell. It's very important. You will not know I'm putting them out if you just subscribe. Okay. So, Omar Hakim on Where the Moon Goes. There are 2 main grooves that I really keyed into on this piece of music. And it's based on an Afro-Cuban feel in 6/8 time that has a 2 against 3 kind of feel. Okay? So we're going to take a look at each of these grooves that I spoke of. And then I'll give you an exercise that I learned by the great Tommy Campbell on how to get that feeling, the 2 against 3 feeling, that you find in Afro-Cuban and also a lot of African music very easily on the drum set. All right, so let's get to it. Okay, there are, like I said, 2 grooves that really captivated me in this song. Now, I started the video with actually the second groove in the piece. It occurs over 2 minutes into the piece on the studio version. So I'm going to be flipping back and forth between the studio version and the live version. There's a live version on YouTube that is from 1983, Tokyo. It is great, so you should check that out sometime. And I'm going to start with the main body, like the main groove that starts off the top of the piece. So let's check it out. Okay, so that's the energy, and I'm going to play it, and I'm going to play it slow first, and then fast. It's in 6/8 time, and as I mentioned off the top of the video, we're playing the bass drum in a way that outlines the feeling of 2 against 3. 2 against 3 sounds like this. If I take 2 toms, the 8-inch is playing in 2, and the 10-inch is playing in 3. So the whole beat is sort of hinged on that. Okay, so here's that groove, slow. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so that's the groove outlined slowly. Really sounds great. It gets broken up. The bass drum gets broken up by other elements on the drum set, but essentially it has that 2 against 3 feel. Here it is up to tempo. 1, 4. So that's groove number one. I love that feel. I remember back in the day when I heard this at first, I really didn't understand how to play in 6/8 that well. I heard this piece when I was a teenager the first time, and I was like, wow, what's that? Because I heard it in 4/4. So I was relating to everything I heard in 4/4 time, and it just seemed so different and so exotic. I guess it kind of gave me some insight as to how, I guess what John Roddy would call civilians, how they hear it. They hear this kind of music as being very exotic, and it feels different than the typical grooves you hear in pop music, for instance. Okay, so that beat carries on for a lot of the, well, first of all, this song has vocals, right? It has verses and choruses. So that's like the verse groove for the most part. And live, lo and behold, doesn't Omar Hakim sing while he does that? Good morning. So you can try that out sometime. I'm not going to be singing for you today. One other thing I'm going to draw your attention to, if you check out the video, Omar used to use a garbage can lid. Like it was a big garbage can lid. It looked like it was about 20 inches, 20-inch garbage can lid. And I remember reading this Modern Drummer article, I mentioned in the last video, how he would go to Joe Zawinul's house and they'd be hanging out having a barbecue, and you know, they'd go like over to where Joe's garbage was and test out garbage can lids for the tour. But it's really cool. So I used my stacks, my Dream stacks, Dream cymbal stacks. I usually have them over here, but today I put them over here because that's how Omar played it live. Another thing to note, like I said, I'm going back and forth between the live and the studio version. On the studio version, which occurs on an album called Procession, I'm not sure how they did it. I don't know if he tracked it the way you just saw, or if he went ahead and had it just overdubbed. That's talking about the garbage can part. And I kind of feel like they probably did a combination of it. So you probably played the main groove with this employed and then overdubbed where he would sort of leave this to play a fill, because he'd be playing fills and stuff, and this never stopped. This never stopped for the whole piece. I would venture to say that he probably overdubbed the garbage can lid throughout the whole piece, and then they kind of played to it. Live, however, the percussionist, Jose Rossi, plays that on a tambourine, that rhythm, and he plays along with it from time to time until he breaks away to go into the solo section when things open up. So the second groove, speaking of opening up, that, when I heard that one, again, kind of blew my mind way back. Little teenage Aubrey was like, what is this? And it's just a fuller version of that Afro-Cuban feel. The bass drum plays the 2-against-3 feel more consistently in this one. It's a little more evident, so he kind of plays around it. Let me see if I can play it full speed, and then we'll check it out slow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Love that groove. I think it's so deep. And as you can tell, the bass drum has a more consistent feel of the 2-against-3 if you're thinking in 6, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1. The bass drum does that. So here it is slow. 1, 2, 3. right. Pretty cool how everything fits together. Now, I wrote out sort of this hi-hat thing that was happening there that you probably noticed seems to be somewhat sporadic. In truth, Omar is probably just playing time with the left foot, and it opens and closes as he feels at the time. I don't think that it's necessarily an integral part of the groove. I think the groove really is based around the bass drum and how the toms flow. And you can sort of vary how that pattern, you can orchestrate that tom pattern however you want. That's what I really think was going through his head when he came up with that groove. Okay, so as I said, there is a real, sort of stripped down way of thinking about the Afro-Cuban 6/8 feel, especially with the bass drum having that 2-against-3 approach. All right, I learned this from Tommy Campbell, and it really sort of demystified it for me because, like probably most of us who aren't of Latino heritage, we kind of have to, take a deep dive into Latin music. It's not exactly in the household. It's not everywhere to be found as you walk around the house as a, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old, right? So this is a really kind of cool way of getting accustomed to that. So first off with the bass drum and the hi-hat, there's a really simple pattern you can play. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now, when you hear it without counting, you really hear this happening on 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and you hear the bass drum playing that 2-against-3 kind of feel. But if you sort of step back for a minute and just play the rhythm as you hear it. 1, 2, and 3, 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 as if it was in 3. Right? 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3, 1, 2, and 3. Right? It's a lot easier to understand that way. Then you can sort of layer everything else on top of that. So, for instance, the cascara in this case, the cascara is the repetitive rhythm that usually is played on either a rim or the side of a drum. In this case, I'm going to play it on the cowbell, all right? So if I add the cascara, which goes, right? And you play that on top of our rhythm in our feet. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We're off to the races, right? We have a nice, comfortable 6/8 Afro-Cuban feel, and it sounds kind of hip right off the bat. Then there are 3 left-hand or snare rhythms that can go that can accompany that sound really good. I'll play them all cross-sticked, and I'll play them in a row. The first time they start, the left hand follows the bass drum exactly. Then I move the same rhythm over by, in this case, a 16th note if you're thinking a 6/8. And then the third time, I move it over again, another 16th note. The same rhythm that's shifted over each time, displaced. So I'll play them in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So try those out. First start with the bass drum, then get comfortable with the cascara, then add the left hand patterns. Of course you can take those patterns and orchestrate them, and they sound, the left hand that is, and it sounds really good. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right. So that pretty much wraps up the two main grooves that I really keyed into on Where the Moon Goes. And I will continue more stuff on Omar Hakim in my next video. So if you like this video, please like it and share it with others. You can also get more information and drumming at aubreydrumlessons.com. Also, I started to do Skype lessons. If any of you out there want to have an hour-long Skype lesson with me, go to aubreydrumlessons.com and fill out the contact form and get in touch with me. All right, and we can work it out. Okay, hope you enjoyed this one. Again, Happy New Year, Happy New Decade, and I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching my video. Really glad you did that. Subscribe and click here if you want more performance and lesson videos.